begin with adoption of the agenda. Is there anything addition to the agenda from council? Anything from administration?
Your worship, under Committee of the Whole, 11.2 Emergency Fire Guard Grant Program.
Okay, 11.2 grant program, and for purposes that would be easiest if we can switch 11.1 and 11.2. So we'll make 11.1 Emergency Fire Guard Grant Program, and 2 personnel staffing update under Section 19. It'll flow a little easier. Anything further from admin?
No, your worship.
Okay. Councillor Williams.
I can make a motion that council adopts the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Carried. We're getting good at this. All right.
Your worship, I'd just like to introduce you to the executive assistant, Lisa Brown. I'll let Lisa introduce herself to council.
Welcome, Lisa. Go ahead.
Through the chair, thank you. My name is Lisa Brown. I am your new executive assistant. I come with several years of municipal experience and skills, and hopefully I'll be able to provide some much-needed vacancy filling. I hear my colleague has been doing this job for the last several months, over a year, I believe. So I think she's quite relieved. She's taking some deserved time off, and hopefully I'll be able to become a good part, wonderful part of this team.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. And welcome. Glad to have you. With that,
We should introduce ourselves.
we can, yeah. Have you met everyone? Do you want to go and we'll introduce ourselves around the room. And Councillor Williams?
I'm Devin Williams, Division 747.
Bruce Prestige, Division 5, Blue Ridge.
Dave Cush, Division 1 in Solid.
And go ahead, Councillor Williams.
Jeremy Wall, Whitecourt East. Peter Kilton, and I'm Goose Lake, Freeman River, and that's Division 6.
And I'm John Burrows, the rep for Whitecourt West, which gets me in trouble saying Whitecourt, but and the Reeve. So that brings us to adoption of the minutes for 10 May 23. Any errors or omissions, Councillor Cush?
I'm going to move the minutes of council meeting May 10, 2023 as presented.
Excellent. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? That is carried. Okay, we have a public hearing that's going to be coming up at 5:30, which
Your worship, you have two other minutes.
What's that?
You have 2 other minutes to be approved or reviewed. Special.
Oh, yes, we do, sorry.
I'll
Special council minutes for 17 May 2023. Go ahead,
make a
Councillor
motion to approve the special council meeting for 17th May 2023.
Thank you. Any discussion on that? All in favor? That's carried. Ordinance and priorities for 17 May 2023 minutes. Councillor Cush.
Move the meeting minutes of May 17th as presented.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. All right. Now we're at section 4. Public hearings at 5:30, so we will skip over that for now. The bylaws related to that. So we can do item 5.2.
We have a delegation 505.
Is it 505 delegation? It is 505. We'll bring the delegation up. So the delegation is going to be the West Central Airshed Society. And if you'd come up to to the, join us at the desk there. And that way you can be heard and broadcast. And I guess this is rather fortuitous today because June 7th is actually Clean Air Day. So this day is to recognize how important good air quality is to our health and environment and the economy. With the early onset of the wildfire season this year, many of us have witnessed how air pollution can impact both urban and rural communities. So we'll take time to learn about the impacts of air pollution to our health and what we can do to protect it, as well as what we can individually do to reduce our own emissions for cleaner air. So welcome. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, and we'll just go around the room quickly again as well?
Great. Your Worship and Council, thanks for the opportunity to be here today. My name is Gary Redmond. I'm the Executive Director of West Central Airshed Society. Introduce yourself.
Sure. Yvonne Barker, I'm the Engagement Coordinator for West Central Airshed Society.
And Dan Moore, I'm a board member on the West Central Airshed Society and the Secretary Treasurer.
Okay, welcome. We'll start with our CAO, Mr. Frank.
Gordon Frank, Chief Administrative Officer.
Lisa Brown, Executive Assistant.
And Devin Williams, Counselor Division 7.
Counselor for Division 5, Blue Ridge.
Gonzalo.
John Burry.
Division 6, Freeman River, Goose Lake.
Jeremy Wilhelm, White Court East, Division 4.
Andrew Bouchan, Director of Infrastructure.
Victoria Chen, Director of Corporate Services.
Very good. Okay, floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I think we have a presentation slides that will be coming up. So yes, again, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'll just go through some slides. A little bit about West Central Airshed Society. So we are actually one of 10 not-for-profit airsheds in Alberta. We are actually a non-governmental, independent, multi-stakeholder group. So our mandate is to monitor outdoor or ambient air quality. And just to say, the 10 airsheds have a network of about 90 stations, monitoring stations around Alberta. In our monitoring network, we have 11 permanent stations, 2 portable stations, and we also use a number of what we call microsensors, or just smaller devices, to fill in some of the gap areas. We actually expanded into the Whitecourt area about 5 years ago. So West Central Airshed, interestingly enough, is the first airshed in Alberta. Actually, it all started with what we call Westcast in the Drayton Valley Lodgepole area after the Lodgepole blow-up many years ago. We were asked by Alberta Environment to consider expanding our geography up to the Whitecourt area, which we did about 5 years ago. So we collect data. How do people get it? Well, there's a variety of ways. We near real-time data is available on the website. You can go to any one of our stations and look at the different pollutants and actually see the live data streaming that's important for all the airsheds. All of our data is collected through a central repository called Data Warehouse, which is housed by Alberta Environment in protected areas. You might be familiar, I think most people, with the Air Quality Health Index, that number between 1 and 10, 1 being good, 10 being not so good, which is available through a variety of phone apps and social media like Twitter. And we also present information annually through annual reports to the community and technical reports as well. So the monitoring in Whitecourt area currently that we're aware of anyhow is that Miller Weston actually does some fine particulate matter. They have one analyzer on top of the fire station. And that's what we call intermittent sampling. So it is a requirement of their operation approval that data is collected to and provided to the regulator, Alberta Environment. Alberta Environment themselves, Alberta Environment Protected Areas themselves, put a microsensor in the same location, and the brand name is called Purple Air, and you can actually go to the Purple Air website and see other devices, brand actually worldwide. So all monitoring in this area currently is on the roof of the fire hall. So there's definitely an identified gap. So Alberta Environment actually has a document available through their website which is a 5-year monitoring plan. It identifies the big gap areas in Alberta that don't enjoy outdoor air monitoring. You'll see that Whitecourt is listed as the 6th highest priority out of 170 communities identified in the report. The highest being Lloydminster, et cetera. You can read the list, and then Whitecourt identified it. And so how they ranked that was the local emissions, population, distance from other monitoring, those sort of factors. And so they ranked the different communities that way. The second bullet really is that we don't know a lot about the air quality in Whitecourt. We certainly we know about wildfires. We know that there are major industries in and around town. We know that there's vehicular traffic. We know that there are buildings, and buildings also produce pollutants. And there's also topographical features of a bit of a bowl and that sort of thing. So we know that. What we don't actually know is sort of the live air data. That's not to say that we know the air quality in Whitecourt and area is bad. We just simply don't know much about it. Unfortunately, Whitecourt does not currently benefit from the Air Quality Health Index. So the screen capture there is actually from the Whitecourt Soccer Association. I apologize if anyone's with the Soccer Association. I just grabbed it from the internet, but you'll see that there's a reference to Air Quality Health Index. And ought to be delaying games at 7 or higher. And there's a link to find your community on the Alberta map through Alberta Environment. But if you go there, Whitecourt's not listed. There is no AQHI for Whitecourt. So despite the Soccer Association wanting to follow the Alberta guidelines of delaying games or practices at 7 or higher, you're not able to because we don't know the number. Without what I would call accurate, publicly accessible air quality data, there can also be incorrect information posted on the website. And so I grabbed one here, and you'll see it actually says that Whitecourt has one of the worst air quality in Canada, which I'll just say, we don't know what the air quality is in Whitecourt. We can make some guesses, but I'm confident to say you don't have one of the worst air qualities in Canada. So, but it lives on the internet because we can't really refute it with good scientific data. So the monitoring in the Whitecourt area that we think we need is what we call a full continuous monitoring station. Again, there's about 90 of them around the province. And so there are a number of different pollutants that can be monitored through a station. And you'll see the list of 5 there, which is what we would like to do in Whitecourt. The top 3 produce the Air Quality Health Index. So that's level ozone, in particular PM 2.5, and nitrogen dioxide. So those 3 are used to calculate the Air Quality Health Index. The 2 are more related to industrial emissions and are on stations where there are mills and other industry. What we'd like to do, there's a few opportunities for Woodlands County and West Canada, I think, to work together. The first is membership. We are a not-for-profit society in a large geography, and we have a membership program. All stakeholders are invited to be members of West Central Airshed and all the airsheds. So, and when I say all stakeholders, that certainly includes municipalities, it includes industry, it includes environmental organization, includes really anybody that has a stake in air quality. Industry pays us a membership fee based on their emissions. So it is the polluter pay principle that's used around the province. So the vast majority of our budget comes from industrial emitters. The cost of municipalities is $100 a year to be a member of West Central Airshed. And just to put that in context, our overall budget is about $1.2 million. That's, yeah. Other municipalities that are currently members include Brazeau County, Drayton Valley, Edson, Hinton. And municipalities have come and gone a little bit over the years. Just to go back quickly, sorry, and just on the right, so there's a variety of things that we try to do for our members, including providing good in-depth analysis to help with you for your planning. If you have issues, localized issues, we want to be there to help provide good data. and just general awareness and outreach on air quality matters. The second one is what we call sensors. So if you remember, Alberta Environment placed a micro sensor on the fire hall in the town of Whitecourt. And so this is what we're talking about. These are small sensors. They provide real-time monitoring of fine particulate matter, which is the greatest concern during wildfire smoke. There is hundreds or thousands of them across Canada and across, they actually originated out of California for the wildfires, but they're around the world. The brand name is Purple Air. In talking to staff at the county, we were thinking about the possibility of deploying 4 of them to the 4 fire halls. And to do that, what we really need is power, and it doesn't, it's about the same as a light bulb, but then Wi-Fi access. So that we can stream the data, and that's it. We would provide the sensors. We actually also work with Environment and Climate Change Canada. They give us a lot for free, as does Alberta Environment. So there's an initiative to try to get these across Canada as much as possible. And then you can actually go to purpleair.com and see each location in comparison to other sites around the world. And the third is a continuous monitoring station, which again is needed for Air Quality Health Index. So we have a portable, that's actually a picture of it right now, sitting in the west portion of Hinton. It's been there for a year because Hinton required a second station. We're actually deploying a permanent station there to take over from the portable. And so the portable is able to roll again. So we're hoping to bring it to the Whitecourt area this year. And we are seeking a host site for that. So there, in the bottom left, you'll see there's 4 small bullets there about what do we need to host a continuous monitoring station. The first is set back from trees and buildings because there needs to be good airflow. We monitor air and strict regulation. It's called the Air Monitoring Directive. And so we need to make sure that the angles are right. We need access to power, which is 220 volt, 50 amp, so similar to like an RV plug. And that's the draw mostly is frankly the HVAC system on the trailer. They have ambient temperature in the trailer for our own analyzers. We need access for our staff. We have to calibrate all the equipment once a month for it to meet the regulations. And we want to be visible to the public. We'd like the public to see that there's an air monitoring station so they know to go onto the website and see the data, that sort of thing, and ask questions about it. So we try more than ever to make these quite accessible visually to people. So next slide, in talking to staff, we looked at the possibility of Woodlands County, specifically Woodlands County office, being a host site for the West Cast Portable Air Monitoring Station to be that site for Whitecourt area. We identified 3 areas around the office that we thought could work, and that's what I'll just go through now. So if you can see in the map, the little red building that's to reflect the station. So southeast of this building, certainly high visible, very easy access. Some concerns around nearby gravel. So we would pick up gravel dust, which could be a challenge in reflecting what air quality really is. And we could. It's hard for us to pull that data out. And just to say, there are ways of pulling. We can speciate the particulates, but it's very expensive to do it. So it's not an ideal location. Next slide, thank you. The west side, well, that's away from gravel. That's great. Easy access, probably just not as visible. And then the next slide, in front of the building, which obviously has like greatest visibility, very easy access for our staff, and looks to be adjacent to a transformer box, which for the power connection would be probably pretty handy. So I'll just say that in talking to staff, I'm coming to you today to say if you're interested in hosting the West Central Airshed Portable Air Monitoring, we're looking for 1 year. And then beyond that, the Whitecourt area needs a permanent station, but we start with a portable to make sure it's in the right location and the data is sound that we're picking up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, Councilor Cush?
Sure do, especially if you, okay, first one, Not that I'm against monitoring air, especially for a lot of people. I know there's a lot of people with asthmatic issues and stuff in the area, but most of your side and everything you have going here, just be a great pitch for our municipal neighbors. I mean, you're talking about having the town of Whitecourt in the area and whatnot. My big issue is, I mean, we put in one of these portable units out here at the county office. It's essentially for monitoring our neighbors' air quality. Yes, it's in our air quality, but you talk about a polluter pay when the industry's in town there. Who pays for that? I'm just like, you're focusing primarily on this pitch is for the Whitecourt area, but for us, I mean, Whitecourt's not us. Whitecourt is a neighbor with us. So I do have an issue for paying to have something that monitors the air for industry within my municipal neighbor. If they're gonna partner and do it, they should be paying for that portion. We can offer spots or whatever on the outside here if they want something in the outskirts of their town. I don't like having, essentially paying for something to monitor my neighbor. Next, I guess, other thing kind of with that is, we do have vandalism with the building here. We had people break into the gates. We've had that kind of issue. If you have this portable unit sitting out in front of the office and it gets vandalized, who's on the hook for it? Start there anyways.
Through your worship, thank you, good questions. I would say that, so we certainly have talked to the town of Whitecourt as well, and we're both elected council and staff, and so we're interested in getting the condition somewhere in Whitecourt. I would say, so this is actually a pretty good location away from emission sources. So we do think that east side of Whitecourt is actually a pretty good area where some other locations wouldn't be as good. The emissions actually would flow over it, so it would be less representational. But I'll just back up and say, first of all, so membership, we encourage all municipalities to be members at $1,500 a year, because that's how we have a municipal caucus. We also have our board. We have board directors from representing municipalities. And so I would just say that I would encourage Woodlands County and the town of Whitecourt to join as members if possible. Second, the sensor monitoring, there's no cost at all. We would provide those. We would have our staff set them up. If you could provide the host site, other than a little bit of electricity, it wouldn't be any cost to the county. The third one is a continuous monitoring station. Normally our host sites would provide the electrical power for that, so that would be clearly a cost. Although I guess we can certainly negotiate that. And as far as, we are fully insured. Our assets are fully insured, and we do have vandalism in different sites, for sure. We like anything in Alberta right now, you lock it down and you're, that sort of thing. Each one of our analyzers inside of our stations is worth north of $40,000. So a station costs us about $350,000 in assets. So we are very careful with as much security. We have live cameras, we have security systems, and we're also fully insured.
Thank you. Councilor Bush?
One more, just as far as Wi-Fi access. No, I can't speak for some of the other halls, but I do know in some area it's essentially a dead zone. You don't have a lot of even cell phone reception. The ag facility, which is right next to it, they were trying a bunch of the different users in town, and eventually ended up going to Starlink for satellites. It was the only thing that worked. And that one is not hooked to the fire hall. And I'm pretty sure what they have there is either the CCI or one of which is very, very spotty. So if you need strong Wi-Fi access, in a lot of the areas we have rurally along those fire halls, it's not there.
Thank you for that. That is a challenge for sure. Then for the sensors to work properly, they need continuous Wi-Fi. If they get sort of kicked out for low Wi-Fi, there's a manual requirement to go. So it requires our technicians coming back all the time. So that would be a challenge.
Councilor Coken?
Yeah, through the chair. You have in number 2 there, the sensor, the purple air, low-cost sensors, and there's the map of all of the locations that you can put those, like on the fire hall and for the Cinderboy. I would think that it just depends on what the cost of those are, but there would possibly be given the Alberta Special Waste Management site in the wind direction, that the Timu area would be a place to consider as well, because that was one where they did have an air monitoring station. I believe they did at one time, but I don't think it's there anymore. Just a thought.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, we'd be very open to your guidance on this.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Yeah, and I'd certainly echo Councillor Cush's concerns when it comes to the idea is to try and stand, I guess, apart a little bit, identity-wise from the neighboring municipalities. So that's the concern for me as well. Just trying to think, we'd have to have a conversation with the town on that. So, Councillor Colkin.
Yeah, through the chair, just to add to what Councillor Kirsch is saying is, I do believe that there should always be an effort put in that all of the municipalities participate, especially in this situation. But on the other side of the coin, for me, my sense is that it is a concern. Like, we know that we have a lot of gravel pits in our area, and there's that particulate issue. So it would be, I think that the comment that you made that you would like to get all of the municipalities to participate is well taken. And I think for what we would have to contribute to that, I think we would be responsible by having a look at this and asking the question, why would we not include ourselves? Because we should be responsible to our citizens for that. So, that just would be my comment to the situation between my court and us. I think we should be responsible.
Thanks, Councillor Wilhelm.
Just to build off of that, yes, the mill is probably contributing to air quality for sure, but I don't think we need to take that into consideration. We should be, like, we're gonna have 4 sensors in a main station located in Woodlands County. It's gonna be based on data for Woodlands County. Whitecourt doesn't want to participate, then that's on them. But we still need to collect data for pollution and particulate coming out of their municipality. Just because if they don't want to participate, they might. We don't know that end of the spectrum. So I just don't think that needs to be consideration. Do we want to participate in this program, regardless of what Whitecourt's doing? And I think we should.
Councillor Prestige.
Through the chair. The Wi-Fi is gonna be a big thing. Now, if there's no Wi-Fi, are you expecting the county to have Wi-Fi available for you? Or would you look at getting your own Starlink?
And I apologize if I haven't been clear. So the purple areas that require Wi-Fi, that's really the way they operate. So we wouldn't do any other communication style on that. The continuous station, we actually use either cell or sat data. So we have our own system for that. Yeah, sorry. We don't use the Wi-Fi for the continuous station. Sorry if I misunderstood. Yeah.
So the remotes is, you'd just be looking at the remote station.
That's
You'd
right.
have to
The
look at
sensors.
some place with a deep
That's right.
signal.
Yes.
Easy enough.
Yeah, I have just one more quick question. For the monitoring station, you need access to 220.
Yes.
So what kind of power requirements are we talking about in amps?
I think it's 50 amp. Yeah.
So it's
With
quite
an
a lot
RV
of power
style
then.
plug. Pardon? Sorry.
So you're 220 at 50 amps?
It's just the way the station is wired, but so what the analyzers themselves require very little power. It's the HVAC system, BARD, that draws it. So it certainly is a draw in cold and hot weather. We have a a 6-degree ambient temperature requirement inside the station for the analyzers. So
Okay.
there is definitely a draw for power, yeah.
All right, thank you very much. We do have a public hearing, and we're going over for time on our public hearing at the moment. So what I would like to do is if we can get a motion to accept the delegation for information, and we'll come back to it in a minute. So, Councillor Williams.
I'll make a motion that council accepts the West Central Airshed Society presentation as information.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Any further discussion? Thank you very much for your presentation. I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you again.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay. Just give me 1 second to get organized on my public hearing here. Okay, we will. Item 4.1 in the agenda and declare the public hearing for bylaw 597/23 advertising open at 5:35 p.m. So I'm going to ask that the communications assistant provide the background of the hearing. So that would be Nikita.
Yep. Thank you, Your Worship. So yes, this is the bylaw 597/23 advertising bylaw. This was brought to you before at the Governance and Priorities Committee meeting, and regarding our advertising in newspapers. Per the MGA, council must give notice of certain bylaws and other public notices in print, in newspapers, or other publications circulating to residents in the area. However, there is also in section 606(1) in the MGA, which allows those advertisements to be posted online through a bylaw passing. Lens County does not intend to go strictly electronic. It will be using a hybrid approach of using both print and electronic, with a condensed version of notices being posted in newspapers with full details of the notices being posted on the website. This bylaw helps promote fiscal responsibility by using advertising dollars wisely, and while still also supporting and informing residents who still primarily use newspapers to stay up to date.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I can offer an opportunity for council to ask any questions through the chair to administration on bylaw 597/23. We've all seen this at the Governance and Priorities meeting. For those of you that are in attendance, that we've already seen this. So, any questions? I see none from council. So I'll ask administration, do you have any written or verbal submissions on this bylaw in the public hearing?
No, we have not received any written or verbal submissions.
Okay. And we have a few people in the gallery, so I'm not going to assume that somebody's not here for multiple purposes. So does anyone wish to speak in favor first and then opposed of this bylaw? Okay, I don't. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah,
Just-
Dan Moore.
Before you do speak then, I'll ask you to do your full name, your property address, and whether you're speaking for yourself or for another person or group.
Yeah, Dan Moore, 85 Park Drive, Whitecourt, Alberta. So I'm not a county resident, so
Are you speaking on behalf of the county group though?
Yes, I'm certain that I can speak on behalf of Alberta Newsprint Company. So
Okay,
I don't recall our address at this point, but we're certainly Alberta Newsprint Company is certainly in favor of a hybrid approach for the county advertising.
okay. Thank you. That's everyone that's in attendance? Okay. I will thank those that spoke. Any additional council questions? Does administration wish to make any closing remarks to bylaw 59723?
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Last chance for council. Okay, I am now going to declare the public hearing for bylaw 597/23 closed at 5:40 PM. All right, that takes us out of that. Let's get back to Airshed under our delegations here. We have a couple of, we've accepted it for information, and does council wish to proceed with a membership? Councillor Cush.
I was, through the chair, I think we have too many unknowns on our end. I have nothing against putting them on our fire halls in our area, monitoring the air quality in our, like, but before I could willingly say yes to something like this, we would have to see if any of our facilities can actually meet the requirements that these, that this monitoring equipment needs. I know Wi-Fi early is a really big issue. The small, they're purple monitors. They need the Wi-Fi to send the signals for that. The 220 in some of the halls, I don't know what we have. I can't say yes to signing up as a paid member if I don't know if our facilities can actually support what they need.
Okay, and I'm gonna see if I can head a question off without tripping on something, but if I get this correct, the semi-permanent station is the only one that would need the 220 access, is that correct? So that's gonna be your high power draw?
Yes, sir.
And that would be the one that you're proposing is located here at the county office, correct?
Yes, your worship, yeah.
Okay, so the purple ones are
Wi-Fi.
just sniffers, they're small draws, but they wouldn't be the 220 draw. And again, that's my concern too, is I'd like to know what the power annually on this thing is worth. Anyone else wish to? Councillor Preston?
Through the chair, if we just do the membership, does that automatically sign us up to do the monitors? Or could we just get the membership to be a member and then do more research?
You can do any one of the three. Sorry. Through the chair, yeah, any one of the three.
Okay. Councillor Wilhelm?
I'm gonna make a motion that council approves paid membership into the organization.
Okay. Just for clarification, the paid membership is 1,500?
Yeah, your worship, if Councillor Williams could,
That's Councillor Wilhelm.
Councillor Wilhelm, thank you, your worship. Yeah, they say the West Central Airshed Society in the amount of $1,500. That would be clear.
Is that a friendly amendment?
I can't do that.
Okay, I will make a motion that council approves paid membership of $1,500 to the West Central Airshed Organization.
Society.
Okay, that amendment is accepted as a motion. Do you have that, Lisa? Okay. Any comments? Anyone wishes to do the motion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay, do we want to go with number 3, or can I make a suggestion that we make a motion to just seek the annual costs on this and the support systems needed to see if we can comply with them? Councillor Will.
Through the chair to administration, have we checked to make sure that we have available capacity, like 50 amp breaker and 220 power? I'm sure we do in the shop, right? But have we checked to see?
Yeah,
if we have
your
the capacity
members
for
of
that?
council, we can accommodate 220 power with, if it's a 30 amp. Yeah. And that's an air conditioning unit, usually is 30 amp.
Right, so that's the question. They're asking for 50 amp.
Yeah, but if it's just, and again, that's the question. So what I heard the Reeve said is that you're having a motion that the administrator investigate further before making a decision regarding this matter.
Yeah, I'd like to know have the ability to, power available and costs to run this manually. The middle council.
Is there any way remote monitors? I think they can find some suitable hosts for on the fire halls or wherever that would, maybe they only can do 3 in the county, but I think those ones are pretty low cost. I think they make sense to have in the county, personally, especially with what we just went through as an entire province, and then make the portable one a separate conversation to have, because I think it's 2 very different things that we're talking about.
Okay. Councillor Kush? Oh, sorry, Councillor Prestige.
Through the chair, like if we have to run 220 power from our shop all the way out to in front of the office here, we'd have to trench in power. Who's gonna pay for that?
So if that is the requirement, that is long distance, I agree, I think. So I would just offer that West Central Airshed leans upon its host to provide that. There have been examples where we have contributed to the cost of wiring as well. That is quite a distance. If that is the closest, then we might want to reconsider the siting of this station, for example. And in the 50 versus 30, I think we could probably resolve that on our end, but I'm not an electrician, but I think it's overwired, if you will. So I think we could probably bring that down to a 30 amp requirement on a station.
Okay. Councillor Kush?
I just kind of going off what Councillor Williams has said now, the purple air ones, those are the ones that require Wi-Fi, right?
Yes, they correct Wi-Fi and just house current.
Which is still my concern on some of these halls. If they have the Wi-Fi capability, they'll actually be steady enough to run these. It's something that we gotta check. Because I'm pretty sure Ensemble isn't gonna be quality enough to keep something consistently running. It's just, it's a poor internet area.
Might have an administrative suggestion here. So.
Yeah, your worship, members of council, the only area in question would be El Selmo, even though they do run off of Wi-Fi. Again, we don't believe it's an issue, but the question will be more interfering with metal buildings other than Blue Ridge's or metal buildings. For Wi-Fi versus hardwired, because all our stuff is hardwired. We have Wi-Fi available, part of the thing, but the question is on the outside.
Well, there's remote antennas you can get to deal with that.
Yeah. It might get off. Honestly, we don't know until we try, to be honest. We often do a little surveillance at a building to find out. And if there is a window, that can help greatly for Wi-Fi. And if there are external antennas we can get for Wi-Fi. So we've played with a lot of different technology to make sure there is a connection. Otherwise, we wouldn't put it there. There has to be a decent Wi-Fi signal.
Okay. Councillor Coker.
Yeah, I think that just with the conversation that I hear around the table, I think what I would be prepared to make a motion that we ask administration to work with the West Central Airshed Society, and give us a ballpark figure of what the costs would be, so that we can put it into our next budget.
Okay. So you're making that motion then?
Yes.
All right.
So your worship, Councillor Cook, is to administration to work with the West Central Airshed Society to bring back further information on the costs associated with.
Yep,
Option 3.
Yep.
with options, with both option 2 and 3, because 2 is the sensor monitoring, the purple, and the 3 is the continuous.
Okay. So that's accepted as a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? I don't see anyone with their hand up, so I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. That'll close off the West Central Airshed Society. Okay. Thanks very much.
Yes, thank
Thank you,
you.
Worship. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
5 point.
Sorry, we bounced around quite a bit in this. I'm just trying to make sure what we
You would be back on your worship 5.1.
Yeah. Okay, so that'll bring us to, lock that on my computer. 5.2. Correction, 5.1. So this will be our draft bylaw 59723 for advertising. Just 1 minute here. Nikita's just going to introduce it real quick, and then we'll get on to the motions.
Just as I said in the public hearing, this is a hybrid or a bylaw for advertising for both print and electronic. We intend to go with that hybrid format of having both advertising to go in newspapers and posted on our website.
Thank you, Nikita. Councilor Willie.
Motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 597/23 advertising.
Thank you, Councilor Wilhelm. Motion on the floor is accepted. Is there any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Councilor Prestige.
I'll make a motion that council give third reading to bylaw 597/23 advertising.
Thank you, Councilor Prestige. Any discussion on that motion? Reading. Okay, so that is passed. And the draft bylaw is no longer a draft bylaw. So that'll bring us to item 5.2, bylaw 57721. This is a request to close a portion of roadway. And Andre, you want to take us through this one, please?
Your worship, members of council, the Municipal Government Act allows council by bylaw to close the whole or any part of a road. Administration received 2 requests to close a part of roadway 2196 EU that runs between the 2 properties on the Southwest 1862-6 west of the 5th. Both parties have agreed to split the costs and of whatever the county incurs. And at that time, the property would be surveyed, split between the two properties, and amalgamated into their properties. This road is located on the banks of the Freeman River, just on the east side of Highway 658. And recommendation is council give first reading to bylaw 577/21 for closure of a portion of roadway 2196 EU located within Southwest 1862-6 west of the 5th. And council direct administration to schedule a public hearing for roadway closure bylaw 577/21. I should also add that I believe it was in 2006 or 7, this portion of road was physically closed, but not closed by, it has been used for quite a few years, probably 15, 16 years.
Okay. Councillor Cokin.
Yeah, through the chair to Andre. I'm familiar with that road. It's been closed since the existing access to the other properties are there. There's only one concern I have, and that is that, does that roadway have any drainages on it that are blocked? Because that would, affect, because it was a road, there are culverts in there. Is there anything that we would have to dig out or do there that would, make sure that the continuous drainage, the way it's supposed to happens, because those could collapse or those could, so, that would be a consideration for the landowners as well.
Through the chair to Councillor Culkin, I believe there was only one culvert, and that was where it tied into the new road, and it was removed. We did not find any culverts elsewhere within the portion to be closed.
So the removal of that wouldn't have affected the drainage the drainage problem that we currently have to the south of that?
No.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Williams.
I'd be prepared to make a motion that council give first reading to bylaw 57721 for closure of a portion of roadway 2196 EU located within Southwest 1862-6 west of 5th.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Williams. Motion on the floor. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Okay. That will bring us to.
I'll make a motion, the second motion.
Thank you.
The second motion that we direct administration to schedule a public hearing for the roadway closure bylaw 577/21.
Yes. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Okay. So we're into new business, item 8.1. This will be the draft 1972 amended health and wellness. So, Mr. Frank.
Your worship, members of council, at the last GMP, council reviewed this proposed policies with the changes to the policy, and the committee recommended council give consideration for the revised policy.
Okay. We saw this at the GNP, so has there been any changes from this to the GNP version?
No.
Okay. Councillor Kush.
With that, given that this hasn't been amended or looked at since 2009, so it's definitely time for an update. I'll make the motion that policy 1992 be amended wellness program.
Thank you. Motion on the floor from Councillor Cushion, discussion on the motion. All, if that, I'll call the question, all in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Item 8.2, Center of Alberta Development. Weird how this came forward. Trying to get this zoomed in here, sorry. Andre, you want to take us through this one?
Your worship, members of council, for just over 8 or 9 months, administration's been in discussions with representatives from the province that are running the Recreation Ecosystems and Land Program, which is an incentive program to develop recreational sites, properties that belong to the province, with a partnership with the local municipality who would do the maintenance of that site. So, garbage removal, ensuring branches or trees that come down on the trails would be removed. In those discussions, the Centre of Alberta was brought up roughly 6 months ago. So this program, if the county enters into it, takes roughly 2 to 3 years to come to fruition, and it is ranked against other projects that are brought forward within the municipality. The province is actually pretty keen on this site, given that there is a time capsule on site, there is a monument there, there's some history, and the representatives were identifying that if this moves ahead, it would be a well promoted by the province. There would be dignitaries on the redesignation of it. So the process happens by first an assessment being done, then there is some planning being done, and then the construction is done. The province pays for all of that. They do all the construction, we have input. Assessment is done, the assessment identifies in the county or the municipality and payers in the area what kind of, for this site, what kind of trail that would be. Would it be a walking trail, walking equestrian, ATV, all of them? Would it be interpretive? So all that is part of the assessment, and then it's ranked against other sites. And at that point, if the province determines this as a site, it starts going down that process. If council determines they do want to enter into this partnership, administration has identified some partners within the area that we would be approaching. There are grants available that we can access to start the assessment prior to the province, which would eliminate roughly 1 to possibly 2 years of this project moving forward. So as part of, as I said, part of the partnership is that the county would start maintaining it. That would be an item to be budgeted for in future years under the Recreation Department. We've estimated that we're looking at roughly ballpark $20,000 a year to do that maintenance. And given that the Centre of Alberta has become a promotional item for some of the committees within the county, administration feels that this would be a good partnership to enter with the province. There is some history with the county doing maintenance on it over the past few years. I think roughly 6 or 7 years ago, the partnership dissolved. Nothing's happened. The trail has fallen in disrepair. So this would be basically a new project for that site. recommendation is that council approves administration entering into an agreement under the Recreation Ecosystems and Land Program with the province of Alberta for the development of the center of Alberta.
Okay, thanks very much. Councillor Copeland.
Yeah, through the chair to council. I think this doesn't need a whole lot of discussion because it is fundamentally a big part of what we are selling on a number of different fronts. And I think that I'm prepared to make a motion that the council approve administration entering into an agreement under the Rec and Ecosystems Lands Program with the province of Alberta for the development of the center of Alberta.
Okay, all said, thank you. I'll certainly accept that motion. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Excellent. That's exciting. Item 8.3, we'll get this one out of the way and then we'll do a quick break here. Victoria, you're gonna take us through the revised borrowing requirements.
Okay. So council has adopted bylaw 599/23 on April 26 regarding the borrowing requirements for the reconstructions of the ANC service road. At that time, the requirement of the financing is about 1.7 mil. As a result of the design change, the project requirements is now dropped to about $1.5 million. So as a result, that is a reduction of $200,000, which we do not need to borrow. In this case, we have revised the applications to the province and reduced the loan amount to $1.5 million. The terms remain at 15 years. The interest rate remain the same. As a result of the reductions, the overall borrowing cost would drop by $60,000 for the life of the borrowing.
Okay. I'm gonna ask just one quick question. So when we take these long-term loans out, what is the penalty to pay it back, say, in 6 years?
With the province, there is no flexibility of paying early. If we pay early, we have to pay all the supposed interest.
Really?
Yes. So I was told that in 2019, they dissolved the Alberta Capital Finance Authority. So now on, the province saying that we can borrow through the banks. With the banks, we have flexibility of we paying early and all that, but the interest rate will be really negotiable. When I talked to the bank, they said that they usually do not go into long-term, like 15 years. They would go for 5 years. Yeah.
Boy, that's a pain. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Williams?
I'll make a motion that council accepts the revised requirements for the ANC service information.
Thank you for the motion. Councillor Williams, any discussion on it? All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Okay, let's take a quick break here. We'll come back in. Let's come back to 5. soon as Nikita gives me the thumb up, we're good. Okay, so we're back from our break. The time is 6:20. And we left off at 8.4, so this is the grader acquisition. And now I'm in the wrong spot on my agenda. 4. Andre, you're going to take us through this one.
Your worship, members of council, the 2023 budget included funding for the leasing of 2 new graders. An RFP was let out requesting pricing on leasing 2 graders, the purchase price after the lease was done, and the outright purchase of 2 units. We had 2 bidders, the CAT supplier, the John Deere supplier. They both bid 2 separate units, one a little smaller, one a little bigger than our current unit, which is a model that's no longer made. I've attached a spreadsheet that identifies the lease payments range from $1,218,886 to $1,340,937 over 5 years, which the machines would have a 5-year warranty. Delivery time on new units is 4 months for the John Deere, 11 months for the CAT units. Of the 4 models submitted, administration would recommend the lease of 2 John Deere JD77, and that should be 2 GP units. But as I mentioned, we also included a price on an outright purchase. The price of the purchasing units range from $1,373,000 to $1,502,760. The ripper and the dozer on the existing units that we own will transfer to the new CAT units, which is a reduction of $115,500. In addition, CAT offers an additional 2-year, up to 10,000 hours for an additional $29,000. That amount is included in the overall purchase price on the chart. Should the county wish to purchase the units after 5 years of leasing them, the prices range from $1,523,386 to $1,776,687. As I mentioned, with the reduction in the transferring of the rippers and dozers, plus the additional 2-year warranty, making that a 7-year warranty on the graders if they are purchased, the 2 CAT units come in slightly over the cost of leasing units for 5 years. Purchasing the CAT 150 all-wheel drive with the additional 2-year warranty, reutilizing the existing rippers and dozers, will supply the county with the required new grader units for slightly more than the cost of leasing the units for 5 years. If purchased, financing the new units would cost approximately $160,000 through Financial Institute. However, the county currently has $2.7 million in the working capital reserve, in which administration is proposing to finance the units from. The administration is proposing to purchase 2 CAT 150s and replenish the reserve through the annual operating budget for the 5-year. So the funds to purchase would go back into the reserve over the 5-year term, essentially this roughly the same price as leasing the units over the 5 years. Plus, there'd be an additional 2-year warranty on those units. And after 7 years, the county would still have a residual value in those units. Although CAT is offered pricing on the 140 and the 150, administration is recommending to purchase the 150 all-wheel drives. Reason being that we went from 7 graders to 5 graders. These 2 graders would go on the Whitecourt side where there are a number of hills. The units have a slightly more horsepower than our current units. Other than that, they're roughly the same, a little heavier. Moving forward, if in 2024 council decides to get an additional 1 or 2 graders to renew the fleet, administration will be recommending the 140s. Up in the fort, there's not a whole lot of hills, so that additional power isn't really needed. Council, the recommendation is that council approve the purchase of 2 CAT 150 all-wheel drive motor graders from Finning, Canada for a total purchase price of $1,352,500 plus GST funds from the equipment reserve, and that council approves administration to fund an additional $10,000 for equipment preparation from the equipment reserve. I should point out that $10,000 would be required whether we lease them or purchase them. And that would be for the installation of our GPS, the radios, deckling, the safety equipment. I don't have it in here, but when the 2 new units do arrive, that would mean we have 2 surplus units. We would be recommending to surplus one of them and keep one of them as a backup as the remaining 3 units are getting up there in age.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Kush.
I have 2 questions. First one, what do we anticipate if we surplus one of the graders to get at auction?
Through the chair to Councilor Kush, given that they are 2015s, next year they'll be 9-year-old units. You may be looking at, I'm gonna guess between somewhere around 75,000.
Wait, my next question here. So we're looking 1.5 million plus, essentially. It could be a little bit more, but around the 1.5 million. Conversations we've had for just about 2 years here now is looking at the cost of owning our own equipment and running it versus contracting some of these work or these jobs out. We've talked to bunch of different, councillors from other municipalities and other areas, and a lot of them actually said that they will say the same type of thing, where they've been finding that it's more cost beneficial instead of paying out the extra in wages and equipment and repairs and everything to contract it to other people. I know we tried putting out something before where we were looking for people in the area trying to get prices, but the stipulations on the equipment, I mean, there's a lot of contractors couldn't make that. Instead of doing 2 passes, somebody with some of the equipment that they have in their fleet would have to do 3. And I would like to see, before we spend this kind of, because it's not like a $15,000 purchase. It's $1.5 million out of the county funds that we're slowly trying to get back saved up in here. I would like to know what it would look like to contract that out. Find the actual price point difference between what we're doing here and what somebody would charge us to basically pick up the slack and do this without spending $1.5 million. We asked for it. It's come up multiple times. We've just never seen a true comparison.
Okay. Councilor Colkin.
Yeah, through the chair to Andre. I'm going to echo some of what Councillor Cush is saying, and this is no means wanting to say that you didn't do your job on having a look at how we would purchase these graders. And I think that was well covered. But I think that the struggle that I have, and it's again over the long period of time, is that we keep doing business the way we keep doing business because that's the way we do business. And I don't necessarily think that I'm comfortable making a decision to do the same thing for the next 5 years without having options. And you know, and this is not just on, I understand that our grader fleet's getting older, but I think it's at this point in time that we have to make a decision of what are our options, so we really have a clear understanding how, you know, what could we possibly contract, what could we possibly what do we really need for core equipment, because if we don't make that decision, we're locking ourselves into another 5 to 7 years of doing business the way we're doing business. And quite frankly, with a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about with other municipalities, is that maybe it's time that we really have a look at reviewing that and trying to understand a little better, is this the best way to move forward?
Councillor President.
Through the chair to Andre. I agree with what Peter and Dave are saying, but when we do a comparison, we have to do it right. When we look at our cost on our equipment, we're looking at the price of purchasing. We have to look at everything from diesel fuel to tires, maintenance, everything involved, whether that's gonna be competitive with having a private contractor come in. Because when they bid their work, all that is into consideration. Like, you work it out to an hourly rate on a piece of equipment, what it costs to run it. And we have to do the same thing. We can't just say it's $1.5 million and we pay the operator. There's a lot more to it.
Andre.
Through the chair to council. So in 2020, administration did prepare an RFD, did the comparison of contracting versus running our own equipment. There was a comparison that did include tires, fuel, maintenance, everything. It was a fair comparison at that time. So, but I should also point out that in 2020, a grader cost $385,000. Now they are just shy of $700,000. If council wishes a comparison or to go out for pricing on contracting, then council would have to give some parameters. Are you looking at a 5-year, 7-year, 2-year, 3-year? It's easy to get the pricing on contractors, but there's got to be some parameters or some guidance from council, and we would be letting out a request for proposals for operators. We would be putting specifications on graders that we would be looking for, same as any other municipality. We would identify minimum horsepower, size of moldboards, a number of things, no different than any other municipality. And there would be an age maximum on those units, same as any other municipality that puts these things out. There is a template on the Alberta Municipal Supervisor's site on contracting out for graders, which a number of municipalities use that one to put these RFPs out. So if a neighbor or somebody in the municipality has a 10-year-old grader regardless if it's in great shape, we would not consider it.
Councillor Colkin.
Well, and I think what we're doing right now, and this is, I appreciate that comment, Andre, but I think what we're doing now is we're focusing specifically on the grader, and I think that, once we have a better understanding of that piece, I think the cost of our stockpile, we've got a lot of gravel operators here, the cost of our stockpiles, the cost of the graveling program, all of those things are going to become a key element of, determining how many graders do we actually need to do the grader service, and how many do we need to actually do the delivery of some of those programs. So I think that would be a really good first step, is to have that information, but I think that we have to dive a lot deeper into the picture because of the interest payments that we would be paying on our stockpile, the crushing, the whole thing. Like, maybe maybe this can be developed not just as a grader issue, but what is it better for us to contract out, piecemeal out, and what do we need to actually deliver the service that we have?
I'm gonna go with Councillor Wilhelm first, and then Councillor Bush.
So, I like this discussion. Something that kind of alerted when Mr. Bashan was talking was that graders have essentially doubled in cost, you're saying. So the last time you guys went and did a case study or something like this with regards to that, our costs have essentially doubled to purchase one, correct?
Correct.
It does sound like there is a template in place specifically for these RFPs. What is, I guess, through the chair to administration, what is the, what kind of time frame are you looking? You brought this obviously to us now for a decision on it, but how long can we delay this decision to potentially look at contracting this out before it becomes an issue?
Through the chair to council, whatever council chooses. Our units are getting older. The price on the new graders, I believe was good for 90 days. We could get extensions on that to essentially keep that pricing. Whether they will or not, we'd have to ask. To get something out and back to council for contracting out graders, we'd be looking at 2.5, 3 months before it comes back.
I'm just gonna ask two quick questions, and then I'll recognize Councillor Cush and then Councillor Prestage. So first of all, this 2023, did we have the new grade when we were doing our 2023 budget discussions? Did we have new graders in the 2023 budget discussions?
They were approved as capital leases.
Okay, and we had amounts, these amounts?
300,000 was it?
300,000.
Our annual payments were budgeted for, I believe it was 350,000 a year.
Yeah.
I thought it was 300, but we can look that up because it's.
So, okay, the second question I have is when you're looking at putting money back into the reserves for these, what's the rate that we're putting money back into the reserves? So I mean, if the cost of a grader doubled on us in a period of time, the idea with asset management is that we actually stay ahead of that, and that in 7-year or 10-year replacement time, when we get to that replacement time, we have enough money to put one of these things together and buy it out of cash. That's the idea of the asset management. So that's A. And B, if you're saying some of these machines are only worth, say, $75,000 at auction, have we looked at the CAT program that you can give them a smoking hulk of a grader and they'll refurb the thing back to factory with a warranty. Have we looked at that cost at all? And again, in order to take advantage of that, you kind of need to hang on to an extra, probably, so you could afford to pull one from your rotation and swap it out like that as you go. But is there a way we can look at that, and is there a price that we even looked at on that?
Your worship, so asset management. The way it works is, actually, I'll go back, the financing. If the county was, or council approved to purchase, we would, whatever we spend to buy them, we would put back in the reserve, no interest. Because that's what that reserve is for, to buy equipment. The second thing, asset management. If we had asset management in place in 2020, and we were making annual user payments into the equipment reserve, so it would be $385,000 repaid over whatever the lifetime of that unit is determined to be. There would be no extras to account for inflation. It's strictly what that cost. As far as, let's say from 2020 to now, the cost increase, you have to keep in mind, we have, let's say 150 pieces of equipment. All those payments are going into the reserve, so that helps fund any increases. So asset management doesn't take into account rising costs. It's the cost of whatever it is the day you get it.
Okay, now, sorry, I just want to follow up on one question on that then. So when we had the presentation from and I can't remember the name of the company doing the asset management, data management, and I'll focus specifically on culverts, because I remember that 22 million in culverts just blew my mind. But within that program, they know the length of the culvert, the size of the culvert, and they know the value of that culvert. And as the value of that culvert goes up, at least as he was explaining it, they change that in the asset management system as to what it's worth.
Yes,
You're saying we don't do that in equipment?
that's correct.
Well, then it's not an asset management program. It's a guess. It's useless. So, sorry, I gotta continue with Councillor Cush here.
My question, and this is just, I guess I don't understand, but I don't understand why, so many restrictions on what people can use to bid. Is that like an MGA requirement or something from the province that you have to have, a machine within this many years? I mean, I understand it's, we need to have a wing, it's gotta be able to do the job. But like, when we did this before, there was people with equipment and stuff that would have put in for it, but they were told, their equipment that they're using for doing these jobs on other roads and stuff already currently in industry weren't good enough for the standard to meet to do our roads. Which comes back to my comment of, if they can do it in 3 passes instead of 2, essentially they're paying us for, they're contracting the job. I don't understand why it should have so many stipulations on the piece of equipment.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, actually, I'm just going to back up, answer one more question that the three put forward. We did look into the refurbishing of graders, but it's not feasible for the size we have. Once you go up into the 160s, then it becomes feasible to refurbish them, but not for these smaller graders. So that was looked into. As far as the criteria for going out to get contract prices, if you have, I'll just toss out numbers, let's say a 120 grader, a 12-foot moldboard. Council Prestige has a 140 with a 14-foot moldboard. You both submitted prices. Your price is $120 an hour, his is $125 an hour. He can do it in 2 passes, you take 3 passes. We're paying by the hour. where you end up paying more for you than for him. And you have to be able to compare apples to apples, so you narrow the scope. So if Councillor Williams has a 5-year-old grader, the limit's 5 years, you have a 3-year-old grader, we can do that comparison. But, and we put the sizes in so that an actual comparison can be made of everything. That's why those parameters are put in there. If somebody goes out and has an old Champion, yeah, it'll do the job, but it'll be smaller, not as fast as the new unit. So you have to be able to make comparisons to apples, essentially.
Councillor Prestige and Councillor Colton.
Through the chair to Andre, two questions. Now, if we purchase 2 graders and then we sell one, and that money goes back into the reserve fund, and the other one is a spare. We've done this before, where you've come and said, we have a gravel truck, it's gonna go to the airport, and it's gonna be just used lightly there because it's wore out. And the next thing you know, it's pulling a belly dump down the highway on a graveling job. Now, if we do this with the graders, and all of a sudden, the spare is being used full-time, and we've got 6 graders running instead of 5, and it's over its life, then why did we need new ones to begin with? Just like the gravel truck. Why did we need a new one when this one's going up and down the road after anyways? So if we do a spare in a grader, it stays a spare. It doesn't get put into the rotation. And if we contract out, we say, you need a grader with a 14-foot moldboard, and I think we set at 10 years.
I believe, through the chair, I believe it was 5 years.
5 years?
5-year unit.
I think 5 years is not enough. There is graders out in the construction industry that are working harder than our graders are, that are 20 years old. It depends on the maintenance program of the company. I don't think we should be using the age of the equipment as something against the contractor. It's what the grader can do, not the age.
Councillor Colton.
Yeah, I think, just on that note, when you're looking at contracting, I think it's very simple to me, is that this is the job that needs to be done. This is the base requirement. What can you do it for? And then we compare it, because that's how that contract should be let. It shouldn't be let on how many passes, but it should be let on the condition of the road and how it's left and what the requirement for the snow removal is, when you have to be out there. And that would be, not a lot different than what Ledcor does with the county on plowing the road. They tell you this is what you're going to do it for. So, I think you are correct in looking at it from a perspective of, you don't want a 35-year-old piece of equipment out there, so you can set those parameters. But I don't think it would be an advantage for us to look at it from the hourly perspective. It would be an advantage for us to look at it is, what does it cost us to maintain that mile of road? And what would it cost us to have a contractor maintain that mile of road?
Your worship, members of council, and it's a great discussion. However, the issue is to purchase a grader or to lease the 2 or do the following, not to lease or purchase the other one. This other discussion about analyzing contracting out versus, that was done in 2020, we can bring that back for the fall of 2020, before the 2023, sorry, before the 2024 budget discussions, and give you all the parameters and the reasons why we go with a fee, 5 year or greater versus where we're looking at reliability. We don't know the contractors may or may bid, so there are a number of issues, not issues, number of parameters that have to be taken into consideration when you're doing that evaluation, so.
Councillor Kush.
Okay, well, if they want a motion on the graders before we go any further, I'm gonna make a motion the council not approve the purchase of two Cat 150 AWD motor graders from Finney Canada for a total price of 1.352,500 plus GST. I'm not sure.
Oh, you got the motion, okay, not approve it. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 2. So that's carried, so there's no approval to purchase.
Sorry, Your Worship, and if I may, question to Director Bashan is the lease purchase, or the lease, right, for 5 years. At any time, can you return the unit?
Through the chair, that's a question we didn't ask.
So your worship members, and the only reason is if council has decided not to purchase, the question is, are you gonna lease the 2 graders, or would you want further information before we make that decision, or recommendation for it to council?
Well, I think that's the problem. We definitely need more information.
Yeah.
And Councillor Kush, I think, was in the process of putting his hand up for another motion.
Gonna make
Be
a-
using my ESP.
No, I was gonna make a motion to direct, council directs administration to bring back a pricing comparison and a, I'm not sure how to word that.
Option.
And sorry?
Just options that.
For pricing
even
comparison options for, the graders, whether they be purchased, leased, or contracted. For comparison.
Okay. We got a Councillor Wilhelm.
So, I don't necessarily disagree with the motion, just want to say with the information that we've gotten from Infrastructure Director, we'll be delaying any decision on this for 3 months, which means we might not have the graders we need for this winter, or what's going to happen there?
Through the chairs, we have graders, they're running. You know, they're getting older, maintenance is an issue, but you know, they'll hold in there.
Okay,
It might just cost money to keep them in there.
sounds good.
Okay, hang on a second here. I want to see if you've captured the motion, and if you have, can you read it back to us, or is it a little, we need to work on it?
No, I
'Cause-
just want you to have a quick look.
Yeah,
What council's concerned about is that, I think, if I summarize everything that I've heard, is that council wants to look at making a change the way that we do business. If we approve the purchase of this, we're locked in for 5 years of doing business in exactly the same way that we've always done business, which is providing the service ourselves. We'd like to have that information prior to making the approval of buy or lease on the equipment, so that we can decide whether or not this is the right direction, because you'll be into a new council by the time this opportunity comes around again. So
yeah, Your worship members, council, I see it slightly different. You have 3 other grader beats you have 5 grader beats in total. So unless you're contracting all those grader beats out, right, is you still require some type of equipment, right? So again, but that's just from administration, so I don't, well, I shouldn't say I don't get the sense, but we would direct the motion that Councillor Cush is probably indicating is council direct administration bring back to council comparisons and options for leasing versus contracting out.
Yeah, and I think if I can add to that too, prior to tendering anything, we'd like to see the limitations around it, because last time that 5-year limitation was devastating. There was nobody that could bid on a 5-year.
It's standard in that municipal services contract.
Are we bound by that?
Nope. Council can do whatever you want
There you go.
in regards to what direction you want to go in.
Councillor Cush? Councillor Prestich.
Yeah, being through the chair. If we go with cat graders, they're 11 months out anyways. If we go with John Deere, they're 4 months out. So delaying it a bit is not gonna matter that much. So I would sooner see the options.
Okay, we still have a motion on the floor. Councillor Colkin.
Yeah, and just as a discussion point on that motion, you know, I would think that it would be really good for us to understand, if it's possible, to get that data of what the individual grader beats cost us, and where we could possibly, you know, do a pilot or something on a section that of you know, where would it be best to do those types of things? Because right now, I'm really uncomfortable, like you say, making a decision on the next 5 years if we don't have some of that information to say, okay, these are some of the possibilities and options we have. I don't think we're saying that we don't need new graders. I think we're saying that if we're going to get a new grader, where would it be best applied?
Councillor Wilhelm and Councillor.
So yeah, the motion makes sense to me. I think for administration's sake, it would be a good idea for the person making the motion and the knowledgeable councillors, because I'm not going to pretend I know much about grader beats, but maybe to get your thoughts down into an email, like flesh it out, because we can make the motion, but if you're not clear exactly what you want them to bring other than the short amount of motion that we have, maybe write down your complete thoughts on what information you want to have, because I think that's going to provide the RFD for you in the future that you want to see, and the information that we need, not just the motion that's on the table.
Yeah, and that would almost have to come back to council so you can look at it. Councillor.
Your worship, sorry, and
Go
I
ahead.
apologize. You could bring it to governance and priorities before coming to council. Like, here's the criteria that we're gonna use, right? And have that discussion with council in June.
Okay, Councillor Cush, then Councillor Preston.
I just want to say through to Andre, like I'm not disputing we need new equipment. You know, I know we do have an aging fleet. I do know that maintenance goes up. I just want to make sure that whatever we're doing is the most cost effective for the county. I know you put a lot of work and effort into getting these quotes and these tenders and stuff for these machines, and you know more about each of those than I do. I won't argue that point. I just want to make sure that we're getting the most cost effective route for the county. That's my concern.
Go ahead.
Through the chair to council, trust me, there's no offense. We are here to do council's wish, so it's all good.
Thank you. I have a question on asset management as soon as we're done this, but we still have this motion on the floor to deal with, so I'll save it. Councillor Prestich.
Through the chair to Andre. I don't want you to think that we're trying to do something against you. It's not. I think if we work together on this, and we come up with an answer to our questions together, it may go in your favor, it may go in our favor. But if we work together on it and come up with something that works, that's what I want to see.
Your worship, members of council, we're on the same team together. So it's not about any one favor.
Right,
Sorry,
yes,
I apologize, Councilor Preston. I just have,
It's always in the municipality's favor. So
That's right.
That's what we're going for. And, yeah. Okay, so if there's no further comments to the motion, then now, can I, I'll just get the motion reread, and there might be a friendly, because we don't have anything in there to bring it to the GNP yet.
you got it?
Yep. You want me to
You
read it?
can, you
If I
can.
may, through the chair,
Please.
council, that council direct administration to bring back to council comparisons and options for leasing versus contracting graders for the county.
Is that what you wanted, or,
Leasing or purchasing.
well, purchasing should be in there.
Leasing, purchasing,
For leasing.
Councilor Push?
I say, and if I could amend that to come back to governance and priority.
Perfect. The criteria to come back to the governance and priorities, yeah.
And it is your motion, so you don't have to amend it, sir.
And is that, so you, sorry, you have leasing, purchasing, and contracting, correct? Okay, very good. Any questions to the, we'll get the motion read one last time now that it's been,
Do you want to specify which meeting, which GMP meeting, or just a future one?
Future governance priority. It'll take council or administration some time to get the information, so.
Thank you. If I may, through the chair, council.
wait, he might have a timeline.
I simply have a question. So the current contracting criteria, you have to tell me what that is.
Well, your worship, sorry, and then, I mean, that's part of the governance and priorities. It may
Well,
take
that'll
two.
happen
Hey,
there?
Yeah, I think it may take 2 meetings, but here's what we're proposing, right? And then have that discussion around that.
And I put up the RFP.
Clear as mud?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Give me half a second.
All right,
I wanna make
go
it
ahead
sound
and
proper.
read the motion so that we get it right.
So GMP next week, yes.
How did they want the criteria?
No, you were good on that. Direct administration bring back council comparison officer for leasing contract graders in that contracting graders. And then whatever.
Go ahead.
I just want to identify, we have a GMP meeting next week.
Yeah, it wouldn't be at the next.
The next one.
It'll have to be next week.
It'll-
Because there is none, and after this, there's none till September.
Oh, you're gonna be working late, that's,
No, my priorities are changing. Because after this one, it's September when it comes back to
He's got to
GMP.
rehose 2 graders.
this discussion tomorrow morning. I hear what you're saying.
I may, through the chair, that council direct administration to bring back to council comparisons, options for leasing, purchasing, and contracting graders for the county at a future GMP meeting.
Okay, everyone's good with that, council's good with that? All right, any discussion on that motion? Thank you, Councilor Cush, that was very eloquently worded. I don't see anyone else, so I'll call the question, all in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. My quick question, since we got down this rabbit hole on asset management thing. So our parameters around equipment, so if we have, and I'm gonna use round numbers here so it's super easy. let's say we've got a grader, a piece of equipment, doesn't matter what it is, that we're replacing at 5-year interval, okay? And it's worth $1 million to purchase. You're telling me that over 5 years, we would put $1 million back into our equipment reserve? That was what you'd said, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what he proposed in his purchase, right? On the lifespan of the piece of equipment. Truck is 2 years, you do it over 10 years, even though you're leasing it for 5 years.
okay,
Or-
but
yeah.
the way asset management is supposed to work is that annually, you're looking at the replacement cost of that piece of equipment. So that you know that in
Yeah.
1 year, it went from 1 million to 1,100,000. In year 2, the replacement is now 1.2 million. In year 3, the replacement is now 1.5 million.
If-
And you're stepping up your payments into that under the asset management plan so that at the end of the 5-year period, you actually have enough cash to buy a piece of equipment.
Yeah, so what he's doing, Corinne, Victoria will correct me if I'm wrong, is we do costing, right? And the costing is adjusted every year based on inflation, fuel, all that. And then that number, whatever that piece of equipment costs, right, goes back into the appropriate reserve on either an hourly basis, a yearly basis, a monthly basis. So there's a number of factors depending on that, what that is. So that adjustment is in there, right?
Okay, but it wasn't in the, like, you said it wasn't, so now you're saying it is.
What he says is we're not presently doing our financial recovery plan because if you remember, originally the council said, take everything out, stop spending, right? Don't put money back into the reserves until we're ready to do that, right?
Well,
So-
the phrasing that he used was under asset management. We would do this. And he was talking about only replacing the purchase cost, not the anticipated replacement cost. Did I,
You heard me correctly.
I heard correctly?
I have never seen asset management where you forecast the future price. It's based on the price that you buy it at. That I've been involved in 3 other asset management programs. That's the way it is. We can clarify that and bring that back.
Okay, thank you. Because I think that's a really key piece under asset management. Because again,
But sorry, you're adjusting for inflation. Is, in essence, every year you relook at those numbers so that they become real numbers versus a fixed number that is in the system, right?
yes,
So, for example, culvert pricings is one of the things, is we look at real pricing, but we also look at future costs to replace that. And that if that culvert price is $5 a meter, and this year it's $6, we adjust that price. And we then have to adjust the costs associated with that asset, right?
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you're describing it one way, he's describing it another
Yeah.
way.
Uh,
This is what got me scared.
And we'll clarify, right?
Yeah, okay. Sorry, where are we? Should I have, did someone
No,
else have
we're
a
ready
hand
to
up?
move on.
9-1.
Okay, 9-1. Correspondence and information. Councilor Colton.
Now, I'll make a motion that the council accept the correspondence and information items as circulated.
Okay, motion on the floor from Councilor Colton. Any discussion? All in favor? That is carried. Okay, council reports and questions. Let's start with Councilor Williams. How was the fires?
Yeah, fires has been my life. So that's winding down now, so I can get back to reality, but yeah, I've been really busy with that at work and with the fire department, so yeah, I didn't do much else the last little bit, so that's been life.
Any questions to Councilor Williams? Thank you. Councilor Prestige.
Well, the last 2 weeks have been, I haven't had a meeting. It's been like a holiday.
Okay.
But, I've been talking with the mill manager at West Fraser. He would really like council to do a mill tour. And, I think we should, try and find a date to make that happen. And, something else with West Fraser, they've really got into working with the communities and sponsoring a bunch of different events. For one, our community hall got flooded last year and needed a lot of work done in the basement. And it was $20,000 to get this work done. The mill come in and said, we will look after it and we will pay it. They sent their carpenter in and rebuilt everything in the basement, and it didn't cost the community a league. No, I'm gonna take that back. We had to buy the flooring. The mill covered everything else. So it's sure great to see a business like that get involved with our communities, and talking with the mill manager, they're gonna do more and more of it. So it's good to see. And it's great to see the road from 658 to the other side of the cemetery on the Blue Ridge Back Road is getting done. It's only been about 25 years to get that done. I said I wanted it done when I got on council, and it's been 5.5 years. I'll go back to that speed of government. So the residents are thoroughly impressed that it's getting done. And on a personal, my wife and I just celebrated our 30th anniversary on Monday.
Congratulations.
Okay, congratulations, Councilor Prestige. Any questions to Councilor Prestige? Other than, how do you do 30 years? 'Cause I didn't make it, but congratulations, right? Okay, Councilor Gush.
We had that special council meeting, GAP meeting. I'm pretty sure that followed after the last council meeting we had here. I did spend a day with Councilor Dean. He's not here. We were in Edmonton for an elected officials asset management course put on by the RMA and Alberta Munis, I believe. It was really good. They kind of talked about a lot of planning and questions from the audience, and there was a mixed group from both sex, rural and urbans. And some of the people there, when they talked about their asset management, they were talking, yes, they have a plan, they have, this asset management program in place. And it turned out what they're talking about is their 5-year capital plan, and that's what they consider an asset management plan. So anything past 5 years, there was no thought, no planning, no future kind of development on that. It was good, a lot of, I guess they kind of did like scenarios, whatever you have, scenario A, scenario B, this is what your plan says, this is where you are, what would you kind of do and how would you roll things out. So it was a good course. It was a better part of a day, but if it comes up again, any council who interested in it, it was worth it. Had the In Some Way meeting last night. I unfortunately missed their barbecue that they had to reschedule for last weekend. I previous trip booked out to BC, but I guess the barbecue went off really good. It wasn't sold out like they had initially had. Obviously, with the fire stuff, it was kind of something that happened with the rescheduling. But again, kitchen, hall, everything they've done there with the renovations looks absolutely fantastic from what they had before. Woodlands Library Board had a meeting there. Again, they replaced a bunch of shelving in some of their storage and stuff that they had in there for their books looks really good. One thing that did come up, and we kind of talked before, and I would like to see on our budget for 2024 is try to get a price from administration on what it would cost to get a couple outlets put on the outside of the building for the library. Couple of things, or the reasons for it. One is when they hold a lot of the programs and stuff in there, they're plugging in extension cords inside and running it out through doors and through the parking lots, and it just, at an entryway where people are coming and going, I would just hate to see somebody trip and have something happen. I would like to take that liability away. Plus for the girls, when they're working there in the wintertime, if they had something that they could access outside to plug a vehicle in, yeah, I mean, they're there all day. I just think it would be beneficial. But obviously, I'd like to see, for our next year's budget, anyways, bring back some options and see what the cost of that might look like to actually do. And I think that's what I got right now. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bush. It's good, I'm glad you brought that asset management course up, because I saw that you'd gone to that, and I was wondering how it went, so.
It was a good course.
Reporting on it, and it's interesting how definitions matter with asset management and the 5-year capital plan being intermixed, because the two are nothing like at all, so, interesting. Any questions to Councillor Bush? Okay, Councillor Wilhelm.
Okay, haven't had any committee meetings since the last one. As you guys know, was over on the other side of the country working, and back, and work's just been crazy busy. But I did have a couple. I did want to acknowledge it. I believe it's Seniors Appreciation Week this week, and so a great week to celebrate the seniors in our community. A question for administration. I know that everything probably got delayed and pushed because of the fires that occurred in the region, but is there a plan to do a road tour? We're doing that in the spring, and we haven't had one since I've been on council.
I think that,
Andre?
Through the chair, when I do my structure update, that was one of the things I was going to bring up.
Oh, I must have missed that in your list there. I apologize.
It wasn't written.
Oh, okay. And yeah, I believe that's it.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Will. Go ahead, Councillor.
Just
Bush.
a quick question off of what Councillor Wilhelm said to administration. Last year, I know we had some, like through Seniors Week events held in Blue Ridge and Goose Lake and in Salmo. And this year, other than the stuff basically in the Whitecourt area, is that something that just kind of fell off with everything going on, or?
Your worship, a number of years ago in 2019, when the cutbacks occurred, you went to bi-yearly, so 1 year volunteer, 1 year seniors.
I didn't know, so that's it.
Okay. All right, thank you, Councillor Wilhelm. Councillor Colkin.
Yeah, it's been really kind of a slow couple of weeks as well. I've had a few bicentennial meetings. It's getting a little closer and a little bit more interesting right now, and Bruce and I went out and helped sort of coordinate what was going on in Blue Ridge and make sure that everything was set up there to invite the guests that we're going to be inviting, and I think it's going to turn out to be a really good event. We also were able to convince the bicentennial group to give $3,000, I believe it was, for them to help offset the cost of all of the things that they would like to do for that event there. And so I think that's really good. I've had a couple of RITA meetings, and they're getting to be quite interesting now because we're trying to restructure what the RITA does and how it works. And one of the things that became very apparent in the workshops that we've been doing is that the messaging that has caused some of our municipal people to leave is the fault of the organization growth, which didn't really send the message that Wild Alberta and Growth are the same entity. And they've kind of been separated, and unfortunately, we've lost Laxanan, and we did lose Barhead as a participating member. And their choice has been to support Wild but not Growth, but under the current legislation and the way that things work, that's not possible. They've basically excluded themselves from all of the regional economic development because the provincial government has chosen to do a continuum and continued funding, and this year was $125,000 that they give to the rural economic development alliances, and of that, only 30% can be put towards tourism. The rest of it is supposed to be for developing other things within our region. So what we're trying to do right now is sort that out, and we've hired Deloitte to have a look at the structure to see if the tourism piece can actually survive and be sustained on its own, and so that we really understand as an organization that we have to work within the parameters that funding is let. Because for the last probably 3 or 4 years, it's questionable whether we've done that to the degree that we should have done. And so that's been kind of an ongoing thing, so it's taken up a lot of my time. I have some work to do with the bicentennial yet, because we didn't get that CIP grant. We've gone on a big fundraising with a number of fronts to help bolster the funding that the county put in to that event. And one of the things that I don't think you can measure is the tremendous amount of interest in economic exposure, development exposure that investment is going to bring. It's amazing where we're getting people coming from to attend this event. So other than that, I had a Barber District Social Housing meeting this morning, and then we had a seniors barbecue dinner event after the meeting. And I came here and had another meeting with Deloitte. Then we had our MPC meeting, and now we're here. So I'm really happy for being able to get all those meetings in one day, because now maybe I'll get some other things done.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Councillor Copeland. Any questions to Councillor Copeland? All right. First things first, went to the seniors lunch in Blue Ridge. Councillor Prestige and I, along with the CAO and our Joan Sludwick and Heather Anderson, went there as well. So Heather's working herself silly up there. Again, seniors really appreciative. Nice to see the faces and stuff, and I had a stark realization that I used to work with a few of them, and I'm thinking I'm getting along with them too. So that was an interesting moment. The one question I've got is that's coming up. So the judicial review is tomorrow, and did we have the room booked?
It is booked.
Okay, and what time is it?
9:30 tomorrow morning. It moved from 10 till 9:30. Scratch that off my thing.
Okay, what?
And that was my question is anybody coming tomorrow morning? Because we do have it, because I will be viewing it up in my office just only because I can do other things while I listen to it.
Okay.
I'll be here.
You'll be here? Okay, that's all we need. Anybody else, you're more than welcome.
Okay.
Not sure that I can make it. You did send us a link to that, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there is a link. Just remember, it's tomorrow morning at 9:30, not 10 o'clock.
Okay. Very good. The Other thing that I want council to keep in mind come budget time, because we're going to have this coming up. The FCM 2024.
Yeah.
So that's going to be in Calgary. There is a much improved tone between the federal coalition municipalities east, and they're actually looking to Alberta for energy, for relationships, for this type of thing. So it's interesting. They seem to be looking our way. One of the opportunities that may come about is, and we talked about the Alberta room that was going on in Toronto. So I'm bringing this up ahead of time, but what they're actually talking about doing is bringing in the delegates from out east a little early, because one of the issues that we have in Alberta, and it's interesting, they had a story where these guys are riding the train, and they're from out east, and they're riding the train so that they can see the horrible damage that the pipeline's done in Western Canada. And they're like, well, what's that? And this cleared area where there's a meadow going through there, that's the pipeline. Oh, well, they were told it was Mordor, you know. They were told it was oil leaking everywhere. They were told it was uninhabitable. They were told it was all of these things. So, as an information campaign, when you have the elected officials that close in Calgary, what they're looking at doing is ahead of just a day or two ahead of the convention, they're looking at scheduling flights over the oil sands and through Alberta, so that you can actually see what the oil sands looks like from the air, and some of the pipelines and some of these larger projects that are occurring in Alberta, and that the line that the environmentalists have been feeding them about Alberta is complete bunk. So I'd like everybody to keep that in mind when budget comes around, so that we maybe have a little something to throw that way to benefit the province and our resources in 2024. Councilor Whittle?
Did they have a date? Did they announce a date yet for FCM 24?
It'll be
It's on
dated,
their
yeah,
website.
they'll have dates for it. It's around, what,
The last week
2 weeks ago.
Last week in May,
Yeah.
typically.
I can send that.
But we need to have that conversation when the budget comes up, so that we have an idea set aside. If we don't use it, fine, but whatever, we'll have it.
Oh, it's like June 6th to the 9th.
A year from now.
Yeah. And that's really all I have. I've done some, the next meeting with the zone will be interesting. We're going to be looking at possibly trying to get together with, one of the concerns that we have with the provincial government, and this started some time ago, is the lack of municipal experience. For lack of a better phrase, I guess, the municipal politics was kind of the farm team for provincial politics. You'd start there and then work your way into provincial politics. Most of the people involved in provincial right now at the MLA level have never worked in municipal politics. So they're making the rules for us. They have no idea, because they haven't done our job. So it's like making tires and you've never driven a car. It's a little different. So we're looking at looking at ways that we can, as elected officials, have conversations with them at the municipal level, so they understand things like asset management, especially when you have groups that are telling them it's a 5-year capital plan is asset management. So anyways, that's going to come up at the next zone meeting, so if you can make that it would be great. Other than that, are there any questions for me? Okay. Councillor Cush.
I'll move council reports and questions for information.
Thank you, Councillor Cush. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. All right. Financial reports? Yep, financial reports. Take it away.
Okay, so it is, starting on page 127 and 128 are the revenues for the county. And I would like to draw your attentions on coding, basically the third green line. So based on the accrual accounting is that when we generate the tax notice, then we recognize the revenues. So that means, it doesn't mean that we received the money yet because the tax due date is June 30th. So the money start flowing in, but from an accrual accounting perspective is that when we generate the notice, then the revenue is recognized. So again, so just comparison. And then also if you can see that the actuals into the budget is about $700,000 difference. And that represents about the growth in terms of the assessment growth. Because when we do the budget, the $29 million, we already budget for a 3% increase in the mill rate. But when we generate the actual property tax notice, that is some growth in the assessment. So that represents about $700,000 in growth in the assessment. And then our current approach is pretty conservative. We do not recognize any proposed or grant funding that we apply. We only recognize the grant revenues when we get a confirmation from the province saying that, yes, the application has approved. So right now, the numbers is still a little bit on the low side because we have submitted the applications, and due to the provincial elections, a lot of the funding decision has been deferred. So right now, most of the grants funding hasn't been approved yet and hasn't been recognized. So then we move towards to the next page, is starting on the expenses. So So on the expense, we are still on spending on the low side because most of the spending will take place in the summer. Out of the bills and all that, the bills start because this is as of May 30th. Some of that in June as well. So right now we are we are still spending as per planned. And then the next one I would like to draw your attention is the reserve report, starting on page 134. So those are the reserve accounts that right now we do not have any particular mechanism of moving money there. When you see the growth, it's just the interest revenue. So if you compare to the previous month to the current month, most of the growth is just the interest revenue, with the only exception with the saving accounts, because we are drawing down about $1 million every month, because our revenue cycle is a little bit cynical that we only get most of the money in June. So during the rest of the year, we will be basically drawing down from the saving. So as of the end of May 31st, our total saving, including the reserve, is about $13.9 million. Okay. And that encompasses of the airport capital reserve, the community building fund, infrastructures reserve, the public works equipment reserve, water sewer reserve, and working capital reserve. And then the next, just showing in terms of just a graph to show that how is our money in terms of the movement, and then also the distributions of our funding. Oh, sorry, the cash flow.
Okay. Any questions? Councilor Cush?
Just a comment, it's just, so our money, I guess operational money, we've been able to pull out of reserves instead of running in our line of credit that we've been doing the last couple of years?
So we don't, okay, under the existing reserve policy, we cannot take money away from reserve without the council approval. With the only exception is the saving account. So the saving account is not in the reserve right now. now.
So I guess I'll reword that then. We've been running it off of bank money instead of credit? Or are we still in line of credit, whatever, for the first few months here?
No, right now we're still good. Like, if you look at on the right column, is that at the beginning of this year, we started with 16 million. And then every month, we will be drawing down about $1 million to pay for the
Oh,
operations.
that's kind of what I thought. I know
Yeah.
we had last couple of years where we've been in the line of credits to keep going until the taxes come in, so that's just nice to see a little bit of positive news there.
We've been out of the line of credit actually for a while. Yeah. And that was,
Getting better.
it is. And if I can, when you said you can dip it, so there's a $10 million operational reserve.
Right now, yes.
Yeah. The $10 million operational reserve, that's the one you can dip into without any approval. Any of the
Yes.
other reserves
Yeah.
have to be actioned through council,
Yes.
correct? Okay, so as of June 30th, and that's gonna be when all the taxes are supposed to be paid,
Yes.
we should see our operating capital, our operating, what did I just call that thing? Operating reserve at 10 million. And then, and this is the problem, you're just gonna see a bank balance of like, what, 18?
Okay, so the saving accounts right now we have is 10 million. So in the perfect world, if we receive all the bills, everyone's paying, we're supposed to get about $28 million more
Yeah,
by the end of June, the 30th, if everyone's paid on time.
so that's what your cash balance would be at the
Yes,
June
if
30th?
everyone's paid.
28 million?
Yeah, additional 28.
28 million. So you'd have a $10 million operational reserve and 18 million in reserves, correct?
14 in reserves and 10 million.
That was our economic recovery goal, was it not?
12 and 18. No, 26. Yeah,
So we're there.
we're close.
If everyone pays their taxes.
Yeah, at the end of the year.
Don't sound so skeptical.
Yeah. We're looking at you. It's all on you.
You guys are required to do.
Okay. No, I just wanted to clarify that, so 20, 28. Okay. That's something.
And then, of course, that is more bills that will be coming that we have to pay. For instance, the.
Well, yeah, and
So-
that's what I'm,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Counselor Wilhelm.
I'm in a motion that council accepts the financial reports for May 2023 as information.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. All right. Infrastructure status report.
Worship members of council, for your reading, is the June capital and operating numbers for infrastructure. I do want to point out a few things since writing of this report. For the Old Blue Ridge Road reconstruction, there was some bad ground that was found, which is going to result in an extra, but we are still within our contingent, well within the contingency. Hardwick stair replacement. I've been having an issue with the consultant on this issue, basically being ghosted, so I will be firing that consultant and hiring a new one. Fire patch demolition, contractor is scheduled to be there tomorrow to start. Day and a half to 2 days to demolish, 3 days to haul, and then remedial work after that. As far as the operating, I sent out an email Friday and again today. We had a air relief valve basically corrode for the Blue Ridge force main. We had a spill of sewage. Staff worked a Friday night, Saturday, did a temporary repair. We have a contractor scheduled this week to come out and supply a new air relief valve, do the installation. We're also going to inspect the other 6 relief valves that are on that line. They are 50 years old, so they've done well. If we have to do temporary repairs to get us through to 2024, if any replacements have to be done, that's what we will be doing. However, this repair, as I identified in the email, will impact the budget for that area, but within the overall infrastructure budget, we will absorb that. Also send out an email regarding vandalism. The Schumann Lake washroom is now locked. Repairs are estimated to be complete sometime next week. The Blue Ridge Rex washroom was vandalized also. A lot of graffiti, so the inside is being reclad, but it will remain open. And the washroom at the 2 put in was severely vandalized. We removed it. We had a spare. It's out there. Staff are working to resolve that issue as far as fixing the old one or the one that was there. Under roads, roadside cleanup took place last weekend. There are a couple roads that may be done next weekend with the changing dates. Groups not able to make this weekend, so there could still be some roadside cleaning taking place. There will be an RFP coming on the cleanup and the free landfill use on what we accepted. And then as Councillor Wilhelm brought up, road tour. If council is interested in a road tour, when? And typically, it's 2 days, 1 day on this side, another day on the Fort side. If council wishes a road tour, I'd like a list of specific items council would want to take a look at and potential dates for a road tour. And any questions on the information?
Councillor Cush.
One, I'm not sure if it's from our administration helping out with this, but finally seen Ledcor out in 751 today. That was nice. They don't have to come to a crawling over that Bull Creek Bridge anymore. So, my other question, I don't know, this had come up a couple months ago, and Corinne said it'll be coming in June. I just can't remember this meeting, obviously not, but the next one about the cost analysis on gravel versus cold mix.
That's correct. It will be at the next
I just
meeting.
wanted to make sure.
And we did receive the email pointing out some items that will be incorporated in that also.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Williams?
It wouldn't be on your report, but the paving started around Fort Simpson from Barhead to the fort, and then from the fort to where the turnoff to the ferry is. So that's pretty exciting to most residents. So they're excited for construction season. But I was going to also make a motion that council accepts the June 2023 infrastructure status report as information.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? That is carried. Service tracker, monthly report.
Any questions, your worship, member of council?
Any questions on it?
That White Cordy's top.
Leading the charge. You're leading the charge, right?
Right.
That's great. No? Yes? Go ahead.
Make a motion the council accepts the monthly service tracker report as information.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Carried. CAO report.
Doris, for members of council, I attended the seniors luncheon today in Blue Ridge. It was really good. Reminder of the judicial review, which is tomorrow morning at 9:30. You'll be able to watch it on the screens down here. We provided the staff with a barbecue in the fort and county shop last Thursday and Friday, and Mrs. Brown got the opportunity to the fort side and introduce to the staff as well as tour of Blue Ridge and some of our facilities that we have. Strategic planning session review, Monday and Tuesday, Monday and half of Tuesday next week. The agenda will be out tomorrow after we confirm the venue at the casino. We're just confirming everything up in regards to that. Starts at 8:30 with the session starting at 9 o'clock. One of our employees who was seconded by Alberta Forestry to be a dozer boss for a couple of weeks, off and on for a couple of weeks. He's now back working for us, and all his costs related to that is being picked up by Alberta Forestry. We've canceled our alert. We have been, I've been in this meeting texting back and forth with Mr. Shep in regards to a new fire out in the Fox Creek area, so they're keeping an eye on it. Our sprinkler systems in the El Salmo area have been removed, and we will be sending you an invite to the bicentennial. We have received 40 tickets, and once we know the number for them, we'll return any unused ones. So Mrs. Brown will be putting out an invite to let us know who's all going to be attending, and then some of the staff, and then we'll go from there. And that's all I have. Oh, no, sorry. My understanding, on June 28th and June 29th, we will be having a public consultation in regards to what better farmland looks like and protecting it. And they'll start at 6:30 in Fort Assiniboine at the Legion Hall, and then in El Salmo the following day. And I believe the councillors have been invited for those.
Just to verify, 28th in Fort Assiniboine, 29th in Salmo.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
That's,
And that's only for, it's a public consultation. We invited the respective councillors for the area. If council can attend, that's fine. If not, we're gathering the information from the public.
yeah. When do we come up with those dates?
Yesterday.
Last,
I heard from Joan yesterday. She was trying to confirm with the hall
yeah.
availability.
Okay, out of town those 2 days. Okay. Councillor Colkin.
Yeah, through the chair to Gord, I'd just like you to send my appreciation to your staff for expediting that, because that's been one of the things that I've got a lot of people interested in, and so all the conversations and stuff you had with your staff have been, I'm glad we're getting there.
I will pass it on. It was that or the fall, so.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'm
that was-
so glad they're doing it now. It's great.
Okay, any other questions to Gord? Okay, if not, Councillor Cush.
Make a motion to move the CAO report as information.
Thank you, Councillor Cush. Any discussion? All in favor? That is carried. Okay, so we flipped 11-1 and 11-2, so we'll look for a motion to go into committee of the whole under FOIP section 19 and FOIP section 21, personnel and staffing and emergency fire guard grant program. Councillor Cush.
Make a motion to go into committee of the whole under FOIPs 19 and 21.
Thank you.
And your worship, we won't be coming back on camera because,
Arising out of these?
yeah, no, just motions to accept for information.
Just an adjournment. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
You take five?
well, as soon as we get in,
Okay.
yeah.
You are in.
Okay, all in favor?